My name is Abigail, and I'm 32. Every morning, my son Jasper, just 5 years old, and I walk my husband Nathan to the train station. It's our routine, his tiny hand in mine, his chatter filling the crisp Ohio air. But that day on our way back, Jasper stopped cold. His eyes, usually so bright, were wide with fear. He whispered, "Mom, we can't go home." My heart skipped. Why, I asked. He said, "I heard Daddy talking in the night about us." "What's the scariest thing your kid ever told you? Like and subscribe to find out what we saw." Jasper's words hung in the air, heavy as the morning fog. I crouched to his level, my knees sinking into the damp grass by the sidewalk. His small face was pale, his brown eyes darting toward our house down the street. "What do you mean, buddy?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my pulse raced. He clutched his toy train, its red paint chipped from months of love, and whispered, "Daddy was on the phone last night. He said we need to be safe." From what I pressed, brushing a curl from his forehead. He didn't know, just heard Nathan's low voice through the wall talking about us, about not telling me something. My stomach twisted. Nathan had been distant lately, coming home late, his hands stained with grease from the garage. I thought it was just work stress, maybe bills piling up. But Jasper's fear was real sharp, not the kind a 5-year-old makes up. I stood scanning the street. Our neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where kids ride bikes until dusk. Our house looked normal, its blue shutters cheery under the gray sky. But now, it felt like a stranger's. "Let's sit for a bit," I said, leading Jasper to a bench in the park across from our block. He curled against me, his sneakers kicking the gravel. I tried to think. Nathan's been working overtime, I told myself. He's tired, that's all. But then I remembered his phone buzzing at odd hours, how he'd step outside to answer, his voice too soft to hear. I'd brushed it off, trusted him. We'd built this life together, 8 years of marriage, a son who lit up our world. How could I doubt him? Jasper tugged my sleeve. "Mom, I don't want to go back yet." His voice was small, but it cut deep. "Okay, we'll stay here," I promised, wrapping my arm around him. I pulled out my phone, thinking to call Nathan, but my thumb hovered over his name. What would I even say? "Our son's scared of you." Instead, I watched him play with his train, rolling it along the bench's edge, muttering to himself. I caught fragments, something about a man, a shadow. My heart stuttered. "Jasper, did you see someone?" I asked. He froze, then nodded. "Not today," he said. "Last week. Outside my window. Daddy was there too." I swallowed hard, picturing our backyard, the old oak tree Jasper loved to climb. Nathan outside at night with someone. My mind spun. Maybe it was a coworker, a late delivery. But Jasper's face told me it wasn't that simple. He said the man was tall, wearing a dark coat, and Nathan looked mad, shoving something at him. Papers, maybe. "I didn't see, Mom," I hid. Jasper added, his voice barely a whisper. He'd crawled under his blanket, scared to move until the voices stopped. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, guilt creeping in. He shrugged, looking down. "I thought Daddy would fix it." The park was empty, but I felt eyes on us. I glanced up and saw Clara, our neighbor, walking her dog across the street. She was in her 60s, always baking cookies for Jasper, always watching the neighborhood a little too closely. She waved her silver hair, catching the light, and started toward us. My chest tightened. I didn't want to explain why we were here, not when I didn't understand it myself. "Abigail, everything okay?" She called, her voice warm but probing. "Jasper's just tired," I lied, forcing a smile. She frowned, her eyes flicking to Jasper's tense shoulders. "Saw a strange car parked near your place last night," she said, almost casual. "Second time this week. Probably nothing, but you know me, I notice things." Her words landed like stones. A car I hadn't seen anything, but I was usually asleep by 10, trusting Nathan to lock up. "Thanks, Clara. I'll check with Nathan," I said, my voice tighter than I meant. She nodded, but her gaze lingered, like she knew I was hiding something. As she walked away, Jasper leaned closer. "Mom, was that the man's car?" he asked. "I don't know, buddy," I said, but my mind was racing. Clara's nosiness had always annoyed me, but now I wondered if she'd seen more than I had. I looked at our house again, its windows dark, and felt a chill. What was Nathan keeping from us? And why was Jasper so afraid of the one place he should feel safe? I sat frozen on the bench, Jasper's question about the strange car echoing in my head. The park's quiet felt oppressive now, the swing set creaking in the breeze. I wanted to march home, fling open the door, and demand answers, but Jasper's small hand in mine kept me grounded. His fear was a weight I couldn't ignore. "Let's draw for a bit," I said, pulling a stick from the gravel. I needed to keep him calm to buy time to think. He nodded, dragging the stick in the dirt, sketching a lopsided house. My chest ached, watching him so small, yet carrying something so heavy. The drawing took shape too detailed for a kid's scribble. A square house, our house, with its slanted roof. But next to it, he etched a figure, tall, faceless, standing under his bedroom window. My breath caught. "Is that the man you saw?" I asked, keeping my voice soft. Jasper nodded, his stick pausing. "He was outside, Mom, watching." I swallowed, my mouth dry. The figure's outline was rough, but the way Jasper pressed the stick hard into the dirt told me he'd seen something real. I glanced at our house across the street, half expecting to see that shadow now lurking. I tried to piece it together. Nathan's late nights, the whispered calls, the man Jasper saw. My husband was solid, the kind of man who fixed leaky faucets without complaint, who read Jasper bedtime stories in silly voices. But doubt gnawed at me. Last month he'd come home with a cut on his knuckles, saying he'd slipped at the garage. I'd believed him, cleaned the wound, kissed his hand. Now I wondered if it was a lie. Had he been fighting with who I pulled Jasper closer, his warmth steadying me, but my mind raced. My phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me back. It was a text from Clara. "You sure you're okay?" Jasper looked spooked. I stared at the screen, torn. Clara's meddling usually grated on me, her endless stories about the neighborhood's comings and goings. But now her words about the strange car felt like a lifeline, a clue I couldn't ignore. I typed back, "Thanks, we're fine. Just chilling." But my fingers shook. I wanted to ask about the car, what it looked like when she'd seen it, but I stopped myself. Not yet. I needed more than her gossip to confront Nathan. Jasper finished his drawing, adding a crescent moon above the house. "That's what it looked like that night," he said, his voice barely audible. He'd seen the man under moonlight, not just a random shadow. My heart pounded. I imagined Jasper awake in his room, his dinosaur nightlight casting faint glows, hearing voices he shouldn't. Why hadn't he come to me? I felt like I'd failed him too, caught up in my routine, my trust in Nathan to notice the cracks. "I'm sorry, buddy," I said, kissing his forehead. "You're so brave for telling me. I decided we couldn't stay at the park forever. We needed to move, to do something, but going home felt reckless." "Let's walk a bit," I said, standing and brushing gravel off my jeans. Jasper hesitated, glancing at the house, then took my hand. We circled the block, staying on the opposite side of the street. My eyes locked on our front door. The curtains were still, no movement inside, but the quiet felt wrong, like the house was holding its breath. I kept my pace slow, casual, like we were just out for a stroll, but my nerves were electric. As we passed the neighbor's hedge, thick and overgrown, an idea hit me. We could watch from there, hidden, and see if anyone showed up. It wasn't much, but it felt like action, like I was taking control. I knelt by Jasper, pointing to the hedge. "Want to play hide and seek?" I asked, forcing a smile. "Just for a little while, to see who comes by." His eyes lit up the game, making it less scary. "Okay," he said, gripping his train tighter. We slipped behind the hedge, the leaves scratching my arms, and crouched low, peering through gaps at our house. The street stayed empty, but my mind wouldn't settle. I thought of Nathan at the garage, probably elbow deep in an engine, oblivious to the fear gripping his family. Or was he? What if he knew exactly who this man was, what he wanted? I checked my phone again, tempted to call, but stopped. If Nathan was hiding something, a call might tip him off. Instead, I opened our bank app, a sudden urge to check our accounts. My fingers fumbled, the app loading slowly. When it did, my breath stopped. Our savings, the one we'd built for Jasper's future, showed a withdrawal. $2,000 gone taken out yesterday. Nathan hadn't said a word. Jasper tugged my sleeve, his voice a whisper. Mom, what if Daddy's not Daddy anymore? I turned stunned, his words slicing through me. His eyes were wide, searching mine like he was testing a truth too big for him to hold. I wanted to say, of course he's Daddy, but the words stuck. The withdrawal, the man, the secrets, they all swirled a storm I couldn't outrun. I pulled Jasper close, my heart hammering, and stared at our house, waiting for something, anything to explain why my son was afraid to go home. The hedge's prickly leaves pressed against my jacket. Jasper's small body tucked beside me. His breath was quick, his toy train clutched like a lifeline. Our house stared back silent, its blue paint mocking the warmth it used to promise. The bank app's screen still burned in my mind. $2,000 gone, no explanation. Nathan's name felt like a stranger's now. I squinted through the hedge's gaps, willing the house to give me answers, but it stayed still, a locked box of secrets. Jasper shifted his sneaker, crunching a twig. Mom, is someone coming? He whispered. I shushed him gently, my eyes fixed on the front door. Nothing yet, buddy, I said, but my voice trembled. The street was empty, just parked cars and a stray cat slinking by. I checked my phone again, hoping Nathan had called back, but the screen was blank. I dialed him twice from the park, each ring unanswered, his voicemail clipped and cold. Hey, it's Nathan. Leave a message. No warmth, no hint of the man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning. My thoughts churned. The money Jasper's story about the man, Clara's warning about the car, it all pointed to something Nathan was hiding. I pictured him at the garage, his flannel shirt rolled up, tools scattered, but now I wondered if he was even there. What if he was meeting someone, making deals behind my back? The thought stung sharp and bitter. 8 years I'd trusted him, built a life, a family. Jasper's birth, those sleepless nights when Nathan rocked him, humming off key, were those lies too? A shadow moved across our lawn, snapping me back. My heart leapt, and I gripped Jasper's hand. Stay low, I whispered, pulling him closer. A man stepped into view, tall in a worn leather jacket, his face half hidden by a baseball cap. He glanced up and down the street, then walked to our front door, his steps deliberate. My breath caught as he pulled out a key, the metal glinting in the pale light. He unlocked the door and slipped inside quick, like he belonged there. Jasper's fingers tightened around mine. Is that him? He asked, voice barely audible. I nodded, my throat dry. The man from his story, the one under his window, was in our house. How did he have a key? My mind flashed to Nathan's old friend Marcus from years back. He'd crashed on our couch once, all charm and quick laughs, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. Nathan had lent him money too much, and when Marcus vanished, Nathan swore he was done with him. But what if he wasn't? What if Marcus was back, dragging Nathan into something dark? I wanted to run across the street, barge, and demand to know why this stranger was in my home. But Jasper's trembling kept me rooted. I couldn't risk him. Instead, I fished out my phone, my hands shaking, and opened the camera. If I could get a photo, maybe I'd recognize him, or Clara would. I zoomed in, but the curtains were drawn, no movement visible. My chest tightened, frustration mixing with fear. I needed proof, something to confront Nathan with, but all I had was a locked door and a missing $2,000. Jasper tugged my sleeve. Mom, why's he in our house? His voice cracked and I saw tears pooling in his eyes. I don't know, I said, hating how helpless I sounded. But we're gonna figure it out, okay? He nodded. But his face said he didn't believe me. I pulled him into a hug, his hair tickling my chin, and tried to steady my breathing. My anger at Nathan was growing a slow burn. He'd put us in this mess, let some creep into our lives, and didn't even have the decency to answer his phone. I thought back to last week, Nathan coming home late, his boots caked with mud. He'd said the garage lot was flooded, but now I wondered if he'd been somewhere else, meeting this man, handing over papers like Jasper saw. The image of Nathan, my Nathan, sneaking around lying to my face made my stomach churn. I'd cooked him dinner that night, laughed at his dumb jokes while he hid this from me. From us. My phone buzzed and I flinched. A text from Clara. Saw you duck behind that hedge. What's going on? I cursed under my breath. Her nosiness was the last thing I needed. Just playing with Jasper, I typed my fingers stiff. I hit send, but her reply came fast. Don't lie, Abigail. I saw a man go in your house. My heart stopped. Clara had seen him too. I started to type back to ask what he looked like, but Jasper gasped, pointing. Mom, look. The man was back outside, closing the door behind him. He carried a duffel bag heavy slung over his shoulder. My pulse raced as he scanned the street again, his cap low. I raised my phone, snapping a blurry photo before he turned our way. I ducked, pulling Jasper down the hedge's thorns, scraping my cheek. We held our breath, the air thick with tension as his footsteps crunched closer, pausing just beyond the leaves. The footsteps stopped so close I could hear the faint rustle of his jacket. Jasper's breath hitched his tiny hand, squeezing mine until my fingers ached. I pressed a finger to my lips, my heart slamming against my ribs. The man lingered, his shadow stretching across the hedge's base, jagged in the morning light. I clutched my phone, the blurry photo of him useless now. If he saw us, what would he do? My mind raced with images of Jasper's scared face, our home violated. I felt trapped, a mouse cornered by a cat. He moved on his steps, fading toward the street. I peeked through the leaves, catching his back as he rounded the corner, duffel bag swinging. My lungs burned and I realized I'd been holding my breath. Jasper whimpered, Mom, is he gone? I nodded, stroking his hair, but my relief was thin, a cracked veneer. That man had been in our house, touched our things, and Nathan, my husband, had let him. The betrayal sank deeper, a blade twisting in my gut. I pulled Jasper up, my legs shaky, and we slipped out from the hedge, brushing dirt off our clothes. We can't stay here, I said, more to myself than him. His eyes were wide, searching mine for safety. I couldn't promise. I wanted to call Nathan again, to scream until he explained, but my phone felt like a brick in my hand. Instead, I opened the bank app again, scrolling through transactions, desperate for clues. Another withdrawal popped up, $500 from 2 days ago. My vision blurred. Nathan hadn't just taken money once, he was bleeding us dry. I pictured our savings, years of scrimping, skipping date nights to build a cushion for Jasper's future, maybe a college fund. Gone without a word. My anger flared hot and raw. Nathan knew how hard we'd worked, how I'd clipped coupons, how he'd promised we'd be okay. Was this what Jasper overheard, Nathan planning to rob us of our security? I looked at my son, his cheeks flushed from the cold, and felt a surge of guilt. He deserved a home, not this nightmare. My phone buzzed again, Clara's name flashing. I almost ignored it, but her text stopped me cold. That man looked like Marcus. Saw him years ago with Nathan. Be careful, Abigail. My stomach dropped. Clara's memory wasn't perfect, but she'd met Marcus once at a barbecue before he disappeared. I could still see his sly grin, the way he'd leaned too close, joking about Nathan's big heart always bailing him out. Nathan had sworn Marcus was gone, a mistake he'd fixed. Had he lied? Even then, Jasper tugged my hand, pointing to a folded paper sticking out of his pocket. What's that? I asked, kneeling. He pulled it out, his hands trembling. It's mine, he said, unfolding a note in his childish scrawl. Bad man comes when daddy's gone. Dated 2 days ago, the same day as the second withdrawal. My throat tightened. Jasper had been carrying this fear alone, scribbling it down like a secret he couldn't say aloud. Why didn't you show me sooner? I asked, my voice cracking. He looked away, ashamed. I was scared you'd be mad. Mad I was furious, but not at him. At Nathan for letting this shadow into our lives. At myself for being so blind. I hugged Jasper, his small frame shaking, and whispered, You're not in trouble, buddy. Never. But inside, I was unraveling. Nathan's secrets were piling up, each one a brick in a wall between us. I thought of our wedding, his vows, how he'd promised to protect me. Now I was hiding in bushes, protecting our son from his choices. I stood scanning the street, half expecting Marcus to double back. The quiet felt deceptive, like a storm waiting to break. We needed to move, but where home wasn't safe, not with Marcus holding a key. Clara's house was too close, her questions too sharp. I considered my sister Lila an hour away, but dragging Jasper there now felt like running admitting defeat. My pride stung, but so did my fear. I checked the time barely noon hours before Nathan would be home, if he was even at the garage. Doubt clawed at me, whispering he was with Marcus plotting something worse. I opened my phone's photo, zooming in on the blurry image of the man. His cap hid his face, but his stance, lean and predatory, matched my memory of Marcus. I felt sick, betrayed by the past I thought we'd left behind. Nathan had sworn Marcus was gone, a mistake he'd fixed. Had he lied? Even then, Jasper's voice broke through. "Mom, what do we do now?" His eyes were pleading, and I had no answer. My anger at Nathan was a fire, but my fear for Jasper was ice freezing me in place. I wanted to storm the house, tear it apart for proof, but Marcus's key, his casual entry, made my skin crawl. What else had he touched, taken? What else was Nathan hiding? I took Jasper's hand, my resolve fraying, and started walking, nowhere in mind, just away from the house that no longer felt like ours. I couldn't keep wandering aimlessly with Jasper, his small hands sweaty in mine. My legs felt like lead, but I needed to act to protect him. Clara's house was the closest refuge, her porch light glowing like a beacon in the gray noon. I knocked my knuckles sharp against the wood, and she opened the door, her face creasing with worry. "Abigail, what's wrong?" she asked, ushering us in. Jasper clung to me, silent. "I need you to watch him for a bit," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I have to check something at home." She nodded, her eyes sharp but didn't pry. I knelt to Jasper, promising, "I'll be right back, buddy." His lip trembled, but he let Clara lead him to her kitchen where cookies waited. The walk back to our house was a blur, each step heavier, my pulse a drum in my ears. The street was still kids' bikes abandoned on lawns, but our house loomed, its silence menacing. I slipped around to the back door, my key cold in my hand. The lock clicked, and I eased inside the kitchen, air-stale dishes untouched in the sink. It was too quiet, like the house was holding secrets it wouldn't share. I moved softly, my sneakers silent on the tile, scanning for anything out of place. Nathan's toolbox sat open on the counter, wrenches scattered, not like him. A mug I didn't recognize, green with a chipped handle, rested by the sink. My skin prickled. Someone else had been here drinking coffee in my home. I crept toward the living room, my eyes darting to corners, half expecting Marcus to lunge out. The couch cushions were crooked, a throw blanket bunched up as if someone had searched in a hurry. My chest tightened, but I pushed on, drawn to our bedroom. If Nathan was hiding something, it'd be there where he thought I wouldn't look. The door was ajar, and I slipped inside, the familiar scent of his cologne now sour wrong. The bed was unmade sheets tangled, but my gaze locked on his nightstand. The drawer was slightly open, a sliver of shadow inside. My hands shook as I pulled it open, revealing a mess of receipts, a pen, and something else, a phone, not Nathan's usual one. It was cheap, a burner, the kind you buy for cash. My stomach churned as I picked it up, its weight heavy with implication. The screen was locked, but a notification glowed, a text partial from an unknown number. "She can't know Marcus. Finish it." My knees buckled and I sank to the bed, the words searing into me. Nathan, my Nathan, was plotting with Marcus against me. Finish what? My mind screamed, conjuring images of debt crime, or worse, something aimed at Jasper and me. I clutched the phone, my breath shallow, and tried to unlock it, but the passcode screen mocked me. 4 digits, no hints. I typed Jasper's birthday, our anniversary. Random guesses, each failure tightening the knot in my chest. My eyes stung tears I refused to let fall. I'd trusted Nathan with everything, my heart, our son, our future. And now this, a secret phone, a secret life. I thought of our last date, a rare dinner out. How he'd held my hand, promised we'd take Jasper camping this summer. Had that been a lie too, just to keep me quiet? The phone slipped from my hand, landing softly on the carpet. I stared at it, my anger surging, a wave threatening to drown me. I wanted to smash it to confront Nathan to scream until he explained why he'd betrayed us. But fear clawed back, whispering, "What if it's bigger than you? What if Marcus isn't just a ghost from the past?" I stood pacing the room, my eyes catching on the closet door slightly ajar. I froze, a chill running through me. Had it been open when I walked in, I stepped closer, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. The air felt thick, charged like before a storm. I pulled the door open, expecting clothes shoes normalcy, but something glinted in the corner tucked behind Nathan's winter coat. A small metal box locked, one I'd never seen. My heart pounded as I dragged it out, its weight surprising. I shook it, hearing papers, maybe keys, rattle inside. Nathan's secrets were piling up, each one a cut bleeding me dry. I needed to know, but the lock held firm, no key in sight. My phone buzzed in my pocket, shattering the silence. It was Clara, her name, a jolt. I answered, my voice hoarse. "Abigail Jasper's crying," she said, her tone urgent. "He wants you. Now." Guilt crashed over me, pulling me from the box. The phone, the betrayal. "I'm coming," I said, but my eyes lingered on the box, its secret screaming. I shoved it back, grabbed the burner phone, and ran, my heart splitting between my son and the truth tearing my world apart. Jasper's drawing trembled in my hand, the cracked house and faceless figure searing into me. I felt like I was falling, the weight of Nathan's lies crushing my chest. Clara's living room, with its cozy lamp and cookie-scented air, felt like a cage. I couldn't stay here paralyzed, letting Marcus and Nathan's secrets choke us. Jasper looked up, his eyes wet but trusting, and something shifted inside me. I wasn't just a wife, a bystander in my own life. I was Jasper's mom, and I'd fight for him. I tucked the drawing into my pocket next to the burner phone, its presence a constant sting. Clara watched me, her dish towel twisted tight. "I'm going back to the house," I said, my voice low but firm. "I need answers." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. "I'll keep Jasper," she said. "Be smart, Abigail." I knelt by my son, cupping his face. "Stay with Clara, buddy. I'll fix this, okay?" He nodded, his lip quivering, and I hugged him, my resolve hardening like steel. The walk to our house was different this time, my steps purposeful, not frantic. The noon sky was heavy clouds rolling in, but I felt a clarity I hadn't in hours. Nathan's text, "At garage, call me," was a taunt, but I wouldn't call, not yet. I needed proof, something solid to confront him with, to protect Jasper from whatever Marcus brought. The burner phone, the duffel bag, the money, they were pieces of a puzzle I'd solve myself. I slipped through the back door again, the kitchen unchanged, Nathan's toolbox still open, the strange mug mocking me. My heart raced, but I moved with focus, locking the door behind me. If Marcus came back, I'd be ready. I grabbed a flashlight from the counter, heavy in my hand, not a weapon, but close enough. The house was quiet, but I felt its secrets humming, waiting to be cracked open. I headed to the study, Nathan's space where he paid bills and tinkered with car manuals. The desk was a mess, paper-strewn drawers half open. I started there, my hands steady as I sifted through receipts, invoices, junk. Nothing stood out, just garage orders, until I found a folded envelope tucked under a stapler, my name scrawled on it in Nathan's handwriting. My breath caught. I opened it, expecting a confession, but it was a bank statement, our joint account, with a handwritten note for Jasper. "Keep safe." My anger flared. "Keep safe." While he drained our savings, I shoved the envelope in my pocket and kept searching my fingers, brushing something cold at the drawer's back. A key, small, not one of ours. It looked like it fit a lockbox, maybe the metal one in the closet. My pulse quickened, but I didn't have time to check. Footsteps crunched outside, heavy on the gravel path by the garage. I froze, the flashlight tight in my grip, and crept to the window, peering through the blinds. It was him, Marcus, his leather jacket unmistakable, his cap pulled low. My stomach lurched, but I didn't hide. Not this time. I slipped into the hallway, staying low, and positioned myself by the front door where I could see him through the sidelight window. He was at the garage now, jimmying the side door, muttering to himself. "Deal's done," he said, his voice low, gravelly. "Nathan's out. I need it now." My blood ran cold. Out of what? I raised the flashlight, my arms steady, and took a breath. I wasn't running anymore. I opened the door, quiet but firm, and stepped onto the porch. "Marcus," I said, my voice cutting the air. He spun, his eyes narrowing, caught off guard. "Abigail," he said, a smirk creeping up. "Didn't expect you." I tightened my grip on the flashlight, my heart pounding but my resolve unshaken. "Why are you here?" I demanded. "What's Nathan into?" His smirk faded, replaced by something harder, calculating. He took a step closer, and I raised the flashlight higher, my voice steady. "Tell me or I scream, and this neighborhood wakes up." Marcus stopped, his hands up, mock surrender. "Easy," he said. "Nathan owes me, that's all. Old debt, bad choices." I felt a stab of doubt, remembering Nathan's promises, his vows. "What debt?" I pressed, my voice sharp. Marcus chuckled, low, cruel. "Ask him about the garage, Abigail. What he's been moving through there." My mind reeled, images of stolen parts, cash, drugs flashing. No, I thought not, Nathan. But the phone, the money said otherwise. He stepped back, eyeing me like prey, but I held my ground, the flashlight a shield. "You're in over your head," he said, turning toward the street. "Ask Nathan. Or don't. Your call." My chest burned, his words a challenge, but I felt a fire growing, a strength I hadn't known. I wasn't letting him walk away with my family's safety. Not again. Marcus's smirk lingered as he backed toward the street, his words about Nathan's garage echoing like a taunt. My grip on the flashlight tightened, its weight grounding me. I wasn't the Abigail who'd trusted blindly, who'd let Nathan's soft smiles erase her doubts. That woman was gone, replaced by someone who'd fight for her son, for truth. Marcus thought he could scare me, but he'd misjudged. I stepped forward, my voice low, steady. "Get off my property," I said. "Now, or I call the cops." His eyes flicked over me, weighing my resolve, then he shrugged, turning away. "You'll regret this," he muttered, his boots scuffing the gravel as he disappeared around the corner. My pulse thundered, but I didn't flinch, didn't waver. The air felt sharper, my senses alive. I'd faced him, stared down his threat, and held my ground. For the first time today, I felt like I was steering my own life, not just reacting to Nathan's lies. I slipped back inside, locking the door, my hands steady now. The study's mess waited, papers and the key I'd found demanding attention. I sat at Nathan's desk, the flashlight beside me, and picked up the key, its edges cool against my palm. It had to fit the lockbox in the closet, the one I'd left behind in my rush to Jasper. I needed to know what Nathan was hiding, not just for me, but for the life we'd built, the one Jasper deserved. I texted Clara, quick and firm, "Keep Jasper there. I'm safe, but I need a little longer." Her reply was instant, "Got him. Be careful." The hallway to the bedroom felt longer, each step a choice to confront the truth. I pulled the closet door open, the lockbox still there, heavy and unyielding. I knelt, sliding the key in, my breath shallow. It clicked, the sound sharp in the quiet. Inside were papers, a thick stack, and a small notebook, its cover worn. My fingers hesitated, but I grabbed the notebook first, flipping it open. Nathan's handwriting filled the pages, dates and numbers, cryptic shorthand. One entry from last month read, "M wants 10K. No cops. Garage drop." My stomach twisted. Marcus demanding money, using the garage as a cover. I scanned more entries, each one a stab. Payments, meetings, all hidden while I slept down the hall. A folded photo slipped out, landing on the floor. I picked it up, my hands trembling, and unfolded it. It was me and Jasper at the park last spring, laughing by the slides. But it wasn't Nathan's phone that took it. The angle was wrong, distant, like someone watching. My skin crawled. Marcus had been close, too close, and Nathan knew. Let it happen. The betrayal wasn't just money, it was our safety, our lives. I shoved the photo back, my anger a live wire. Nathan hadn't just lied, he'd gambled with us, let Marcus stalk his own family. I thought of Jasper's drawings, his fear, and my resolve hardened. I wouldn't let this destroy him. I grabbed my phone, texting Clara again. "If I'm not back in 20, call Tom." "Your nephew," she replied. "Done." My heart pounded, but I felt a strange calm, a clarity born from rage and love. I was done being Nathan's shadow. I rifled through the papers, finding a contract old from when Nathan tried a side business fixing cars for cash. Marcus's name was scrawled at the bottom, a partner, but the terms were shady payments off books. It failed left them in debt, and Marcus had come back to collect, dragging Nathan into something illegal. The garage, Marcus had said. I pictured Nathan's workbench, oil-stained tools everywhere, but now I saw it differently, a front for whatever they were, moving parts, cash, worse. I stood the lockbox at my feet and slipped the notebook into my pocket with the burner phone. I needed something to pin Marcus down, to force Nathan to come clean. The garage was my next stop, but I paused, glancing at a mirror on the dresser. My reflection stared back, eyes fierce, cheeks flushed. I barely recognized myself, not the tired mom who'd waved Nathan off this morning, but someone stronger, someone who'd fight. I touched the glass, a silent promise to Jasper, to me. The front door rattled, a key scraping the lock. My breath stopped, my hand closing around the flashlight. Marcus was gone. Nathan was at work, or so he'd said. I crept to the hallway, my back against the wall, and peered toward the door, the knob turning slowly. Someone was coming in uninvited, and I stood there. Flashlight raised, my heart a drum, ready to face whatever walked through. The door swung open, and I braced myself. Flashlight raised, my pulse a roar. But it wasn't Marcus. Nathan stood there, his work boots muddy, his face drawn, eyes wide as they landed on me. "Abigail, what the hell?" he said, his voice sharp, confused. I lowered the flashlight, my arm trembling, but my anger surged, a tide I couldn't hold back. I stepped forward, this burner phone and notebook heavy in my pocket, and held up the phone, its screen dark but damning. "Explain this," I said, my voice low, cutting. Nathan's jaw tightened, his gaze flicking to the phone, then back to me. "Where'd you get that?" he asked, stepping inside, closing the door. His tone was defensive, not surprised, and that stung worse than I expected. "I found it," I said, "in your drawer with your secrets." "Who's Marcus texting you about, Nathan? What's finish it mean?" My words were steady, but my chest ached, each question a wound reopened. He ran a hand through his hair, grease smudged on his knuckles, and looked away toward the living room, anywhere but me. "You went through my stuff," he said, his voice rising like I was the one who'd betrayed him. I laughed, bitter, the sound foreign in my throat. "You're stealing our savings, letting Marcus into our house, and I'm the problem." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. "Jasper's scared to come home, Nathan. Our son. Because of you." His face crumpled just for a moment, guilt flashing before it hardened again. "You don't understand," he said, quieter now, but it wasn't an answer, just a dodge. I wanted to scream, to shake him until the truth spilled out, but the weight of Jasper's fear held me back. I needed him to talk, not shut down. "Start explaining," I said, my voice cold, "or I walk out that door with Jasper and don't come back." Nathan's eyes met mine, searching like he was seeing me for the first time. He sighed heavy and sank onto the couch, his elbows on his knees. "It's Marcus," he said finally, his voice rough. "He's back. I owe him from years ago, the business deal that tanked." I stayed standing, the flashlight still in my hand, its weight a reminder of my resolve. "I know about the garage," I said, bluffing a little, testing him. "What's he making you do?" Nathan's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. "Who told you?" Clara, I didn't answer, just stared, letting the silence press him. He cursed under his breath, rubbing his face. "It's not what you think, Abigail. I'm trying to protect you. Jasper, keep this family together." My stomach twisted, his words sounding like the ones I'd once believed, but now they rang hollow. "Protect us," I said, my voice shaking despite myself. "By lying. By letting him stalk us." I pulled the photo from my pocket, the one of me and Jasper at the park, and threw it at him. It fluttered to the floor, landing face up. Nathan stared at it, his face paling, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. He didn't know I had it, didn't expect me to find his secrets. "Abigail, listen," he started, but I cut him off. "No, you listen." Jasper saw Marcus outside his window. "Our 5-year-old is terrified, and you did this." Nathan's shoulders slumped, but he didn't speak, just stared at the photo like it was a ghost he couldn't face. The silence was thick, suffocating, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. He wasn't denying it, wasn't fighting back with excuses. That scared me more than his lies. I thought of Jasper at Clara's, his drawings, his broken trust, and my heart cracked wider. I'd confronted Marcus, found the truth, but this Nathan's silence was a different kind of blow, one that left me reeling. The front door burst open, startling us both. Jasper stood there, Clara behind him, her face flushed, apologetic. "He got away from me," she said, breathless. "Wanted you, Abigail." Jasper ran to me, his arms wrapping around my legs, his voice muffled. "Don't fight, Mom. Please." I knelt, holding him tight, my eyes burning as I looked at Nathan over his shoulder. He hadn't moved, hadn't reached for Jasper, just sat there, broken, distant. My anger flared, but beneath it was a deeper hurt, a chasm I couldn't cross. I demanded the truth, and now it was here, staring me down, and I didn't know how to keep us whole. Jasper's arms clung to my legs, his plea echoing in the quiet. "Don't fight, Mom." I held him close, my cheek against his hair, but my eyes stayed on Nathan, still slumped on the couch, the photo of us at his feet. He hadn't reached for Jasper, hadn't said a word since Clara burst in. His silence was a wall thicker than any lie he'd told. Clara hovered by the door, her eyes darting between us. Her usual chatter replaced by a tense hush. "I'm sorry," she mouthed, but I shook my head, my focus on Nathan, waiting for something, anything to break this stalemate. He finally looked up, his eyes red, not from tears, but exhaustion, like he'd been carrying this longer than I knew. "Abigail, I didn't want this," he said, his voice low, cracked. "I was fixing it for you, for him." His hand gestured vaguely toward Jasper, but it felt empty, a reflex, not love. "Fixing it," I said, my voice quiet, sharp. "By letting Marcus threaten us, by stealing our money." Jasper flinched at my tone, and I softened my grip, stroking his back, but my gaze never left Nathan. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees like he was gathering strength. "Marcus came back last year," he said, slow, deliberate. "Said I owed him from the deal that went south. I paid what I could, but he wanted more, threatened to talk, to ruin us." I stared, my chest tight, trying to match this. Nathan desperate, cornered with the man who'd built Jasper's treehouse, who'd danced with me in our kitchen. "You could have told me," I said, my words measured cold. "We're a family, Nathan. Or were." His face twisted, a flash of something, guilt, maybe shame, but he didn't answer. Jasper pulled back, looking between us, his eyes wide, confused. "Why's Daddy sad?" he whispered, and I felt my heart splinter. He shouldn't be here hearing this, but I couldn't shield him from the truth anymore. Clara stepped forward, her hand gentle on Jasper's shoulder. "Let's get you some juice," she said, her voice soft, leading him to the kitchen. He went reluctant, glancing back, and I nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Alone with Nathan, the air grew heavier. I sat across from him, the coffee table, a chasm between us. The burner phone and notebook stayed in my pocket, their weight a reminder of my resolve, but I didn't pull them out. I wanted him to keep talking, to lay it all bare. He rubbed his hands together, the sound rough, nervous. "I used the garage," he said, barely audible. "Small jobs off the books to pay him off. I thought it'd be enough." My stomach churned, picturing the garage not as his workplace, but a den of secrets, cash-changing hands while I packed Jasper's lunches. "You thought," I said, my voice low, biting. "You let him into our home, Nathan. Jasper saw him, drew him nightmares because of you." He winced like I'd struck him, but I didn't stop. $2,000 gone. 500 more. What else? His eyes dropped, and the silence stretched thick, unbearable. I leaned forward, my hands clenched. Was it worth it? Risking us? He looked up, his face raw, and for a moment I saw the Nathan I loved, the one who'd promised forever. But it wasn't enough. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I glanced at it, my blood icing. "Marcus, tell Nathan he's out of time. I'll be back." I locked the screen, my hands shaking, and looked at Nathan, his face still buried in his hands. He didn't know, but the threat was real, hanging over us like a storm. I wanted to show him to demand he fix it, but Jasper's voice drifted from the kitchen laughing at something Clara said, and it stopped me. My son caught in this mess was my anchor, my reason to keep going. I stood my legs unsteady and walked to the window, staring at the street now dim under gathering clouds. Nathan's confession hadn't freed me. It had trapped me deeper in a truth I couldn't unsee. He was scared broken, but so was I, and his choices had carved this wound. I thought of the notebook, the photo, Marcus's text, each a thread in a web I hadn't woven. Clara returned Jasper, trailing her, his hands sticky with juice. He looked at Nathan, hesitant, then at me, waiting. I took his hand, my throat tight, and felt the world settle into a quiet, heavy ache with no path forward. Just us standing in the ruins. I took Jasper's hand, his fingers sticky from Clara's juice, and led him out of our house, away from Nathan's slumped figure and the weight of his confession. The street was quiet, the clouds parting to let slivers of afternoon sun through. I needed space, air, a place to think, without the walls of our tainted home closing in. My sister Lila's house, an hour away in a small town lined with maple trees, was the only place that felt safe. I buckled Jasper into his car seat, his eyes heavy with questions he didn't ask, and drove the hum of the engine a steady pulse against my racing thoughts. Lila's house was a haven, its white porch cluttered with her daughter's chalk drawings and a swing Jasper loved. She greeted us at the door, her hair in a messy bun, her smile warm but cautious. "You okay?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I nodded, ready to unpack it, and she didn't push, just pulled Jasper into a hug. "Go find the toy box, kiddo," she said, and he ran off, his sneakers thumping on her hardwood floor. I watched him go, my chest loosening, grateful for this pocket of normalcy. We sat on her back porch, the air cool, scented with cut grass. Lila handed me a mug of tea, its warmth seeping into my palms, and I stared at the yard where Jasper chased a butterfly, his laughter soft but real. For the first time today, I could breathe, the knot in my stomach easing. Lila sipped her tea, waiting. Her silence an invitation, not a demand. I'd always envied her calm, the way she'd rebuilt after her own heartbreak, leaving a man who dimmed her light. I wondered if I could do the same if I had that strength buried somewhere. "I've been Nathan's shadow too long," I said finally. My voice low, the words surprising me. Lila tilted her head, listening, her eyes soft. "I thought I was holding us together," I went on, keeping the house, Jasper, our life, while he carried the weight. But he wasn't carrying it, Lila. He was hiding it, breaking us. My voice didn't crack, didn't waver, and that felt new, like I was speaking from a place deeper than hurt. She nodded, setting her mug down. "You're not his shadow, Abigail," she said. "You're Jasper's mom, your own person. You've always been enough." Her words landed gently like leaves on water, and I let them settle. I thought of the woman I'd been planning dinners, folding Jasper's clothes, trusting Nathan's late nights were just work. I'd poured myself into our family, thinking it was strength, but now I saw it differently. Strength wasn't in the routines, the sacrifices. It was in this moment, sitting here, choosing to face the truth to protect Jasper, even if it meant letting go of the life I'd known. I sipped the tea, its bitterness grounding, and felt a shift, like a door creaking open inside me. Jasper ran up, his hands cupped, a ladybug crawling on his palm. "Look, Mom," he said, his eyes bright, unburdened for now. I smiled, real not forced, and touched his cheek. "She's beautiful, buddy," I said, and he grinned, setting her free to fly across the grass. Lila watched us, her expression soft, and I felt a pang of gratitude for her, for this place, for the chance to see Jasper as just a kid, not a witness to our chaos. I'd been so caught up in Nathan's lies, Marcus's threats, that I'd almost forgotten these moments, the ones that made us whole. I leaned back in the chair, the porch wood creaking, and let my eyes drift to the sky, pale blue between the clouds. Nathan's face flashed in my mind, his guilt, his fear, but it didn't consume me like before. I'd confronted Marcus, found the notebook, demanded the truth, and though the answers hurt, they'd freed something in me. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was choosing, deciding what came next for Jasper, for us. The thought was quiet, steady like a heartbeat I could finally hear. The sun dipped lower, painting Lila's yard in soft gold, and I watched Jasper scamper after another butterfly, his laughter, a thread pulling me back to myself. My tea had gone cold, but I held the mug, its rough ceramic, steadying my hands. Lila sat beside me, her presence quiet, a comfort I hadn't realized I needed. I thought of Nathan, his broken voice, the truth he'd finally spilled, and felt no anger, not now. Just a stillness like the moment before a page turns. I set the mug down, my fingers brushing a small pebble on the porch rail, smooth from years of weather. I picked it up, walling it in my palm, its weight simple, real. I'd spent so long carrying Nathan's choices, his secrets, letting them define me. But here, with Jasper's giggles in the air, I saw it clearly. I wasn't just his wife or the woman who'd trusted too long. I was Abigail, whole on my own, and that was enough. Lila spoke, her voice soft, breaking my thoughts. "When I left Tom, I thought I'd lose myself," she said, staring at the yard. But I didn't. I found me the parts I'd forgotten. You will too. I met her eyes, seeing not just my sister, but a woman who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. Her words weren't a fix, but a mirror showing me I could do this. Rebuild, not for Nathan, but for Jasper, for the woman I was becoming. I stood, slipping the pebble into my pocket, a small anchor. Jasper ran up, holding a dandelion, its seeds ready to scatter. "Blow, Mom," he said, thrusting it at me. I smiled, leaning down, and blew gently, watching the seeds float away, catching the light. He laughed, chasing them, and I felt a quiet shift, like shedding a skin I'd outgrown. Nathan's lies. Marcus's threats, they were real, but they didn't own me. I'd faced them, and I was still here standing. I thought of the notebook still in my pocket, its pages heavy with Nathan's mistakes. I could carry it, let it drag me down, or I could let it go. Not the truth, but the power it held. I chose Jasper this moment, the life we'd build. Lila touched my arm, her hand warm. "You're stronger than you know," she said, and I nodded, believing it, maybe for the first time. My phone buzzed, a message from Andrea, my lawyer friend. She'd spoken to a detective, confirmed Marcus had a warrant, and Nathan was cooperating, giving statements. It wasn't closure, not yet, but it was a step, a sign the world was moving, and I was part of it, not just a bystander. I didn't reply, just slipped the phone away, my eyes on Jasper, now spinning in the grass, arms wide like wings. I walked to him, the pebble in my pocket, a quiet reminder. He grabbed my hand, pulling me into his spin, and I let myself laugh, soft, real. The yard blurred, the world slowing, and I felt it, a piece I hadn't known I could claim. Nathan's shadow was still there, but it was smaller, fading in the light of who I was becoming. I stopped spinning, breathless, and looked at Jasper, his eyes bright, trusting. We'd be okay, not because the pain was gone, but because I was learning to carry it differently. I sat on the grass, Jasper flopping beside me, his head on my lap. The sky was clear now, stars just starting to peek through. I traced his hair, my fingers gentle, and let the quiet settle, a balm on wounds still raw. Tomorrow I'd call Andrea, face the next steps. But tonight, it was just us, this moment, and the strength I'd found in choosing to keep going, one breath at a time. Back home, the air felt different, lighter, though the walls still held echoes of Nathan's choices. Marcus was gone, arrested after Nathan turned over evidence, his name now just a bad memory. The police returned most of our savings, a small victory, but the real cost wasn't in dollars. I moved through our house, tidying Jasper's toys, wiping counters, each task a quiet reclaiming. Nathan was staying with his brother, our separation, a decision I'd made with calm certainty. We'd co-parent for Jasper, but I needed space to find myself again. Mornings were ours now, just Jasper and me. I'd wake early, brew coffee, and sit by the kitchen window watching the sunrise paint the neighbor's roof pink. Jasper would stumble in, his hair a mess, and we'd eat cereal, talking about his dreams, silly things like flying kites or building forts. His smiles came easier, the fear in his eyes fading. I enrolled him in an art class, a place to draw superheroes instead of shadows. His first piece, a bright sketch of a dog with wings, hung on our fridge, a badge of his healing. I started small habits, anchors for this new life. Each evening I'd walk to the backyard, barefoot, the grass cool under my feet, and tend a patch of soil I'd cleared. Jasper helped his hands dirty planting seeds for marigolds, his favorite. We'd water them, watching droplets catch the light, and he'd name each sprout, giggling when one leaned sideways. It wasn't much, just a corner of earth, but it was ours, a promise we could grow something new even after everything. Clara stopped by one afternoon, her arms full of muffins, her usual bustle softened by a sheepish smile. "I should have said more about Marcus," she admitted, sitting at my table. I nodded, stirring my coffee, but let it go. "You helped Clara," I said, meaning it. "You kept Jasper safe." She reached for my hand, her grip warm, and we sat there, two women who'd seen too much, finding comfort in the quiet. Her visits became regular, a thread tying me back to this street, this community I'd almost lost. I'd lie awake some nights, the house creaking, and think about Nathan, not with anger, but a kind of distant clarity. He'd called asking for a chance, promising therapy, honesty. I listened, my heart steady, and said we'd talk, but not now. I wasn't ready, maybe never would be, and that was okay. I'd spent years building my world around him, but now I was building it around me, around Jasper, and it felt right, like fitting a key to a lock long rusted. Andrea, my lawyer friend, became a steady voice guiding me through the legal maze. She'd call, her tone brisk but kind, updating me on Marcus's case, ensuring our safety. Over coffee one day, she pushed a card across the table, a therapist's name scribbled on it. "For you," she said, "not just Jasper." I took it, my fingers tracing the ink, and made the call that week. The first session was hard, words spilling slow, but it was a start, a way to untangle the knots inside me. Jasper and I found a rhythm, small moments that stitched us back together. We'd bake cookies, flour dusting his nose, or read stories on the couch, his head heavy in my lap. One night he looked up, his eyes clear, and said, "Mom, I like it when it's just us." My throat tightened, but I smiled, kissing his forehead. "Me too, buddy," I said, and meant it. The world outside still turned with its questions and uncertainties, but here in our small orbit, we were enough. I stood in the backyard one evening, the marigolds just budding, their green tips stubborn against the cooling air. Jasper was inside, coloring his hum drifting through the open window. I closed my eyes, the soil's earthy scent grounding me, and let the day's weight slip away. The past wasn't gone, its scars still tender, but I wasn't running from it anymore. I was here, breathing, choosing each step, and that felt like a quiet triumph, a life I could claim as mine. The backyard was my sanctuary now, a place where I could stand still and feel the world settle. One morning before Jasper woke, I slipped outside, a spade in hand, and dug a new row for basil, the soil soft and yielding. The act was simple, but it grounded me, each scoop a reminder that I could shape something even in the aftermath of chaos. I'd spent weeks unraveling Nathan's choices, but here in the dirt, I was writing my own story, one rooted in quiet strength. I thought about trust, how I'd given it so freely, only to watch it crumble. But as I patted the soil smooth, I realized trust wasn't just about others, it was about me, my instincts, my ability to listen when the world whispered something was wrong. Jasper's small voice. His fear had been my guide, a light in the dark. I'd learned to hear it, to act, not just for him, but for the woman I'd neglected, the one who deserved to stand tall. Life moved forward, not in grand gestures, but in the small, steady steps we took. I started journaling late at night, my pen scratching out thoughts I'd kept buried. Words like fear, hope, enough filled the pages, mapping a path through the hurt. Jasper's art classes grew into a ritual, his drawings brighter, full of color. One afternoon, he handed me a sketch of a sunflower, tall and bold, with hope written in his wobbly script. Socialization, I framed it, hung it in my bedroom, a reminder of what we could build from ashes. Nathan and I met weekly at a diner, neutral ground. He was trying, showing up to therapy, his voice softer, less guarded. I listened, not for love, but for Jasper, for the father he still needed. Forgiveness wasn't there yet, maybe never would be, but I let go of the bitterness, not for Nathan, but for me. Holding it was like carrying stones, and I was tired of the weight. I chose lightness, not because it was easy, but because it was mine to choose. I walked Jasper to school now, his backpack bouncing, his chatter filling the crisp air. The train station was no longer our path, a routine I'd left behind with Nathan's shadow. Instead, we'd stop at the corner store, buy a donut to share, and laugh over the sprinkles that fell. These moments, fleeting but full, were my anchor proof that joy could grow in cracked soil if I let it. I wasn't whole yet, but I was healing stitch by stitch in the life we were carving out. The lesson wasn't loud. It didn't come in a flash. It was in the way I woke each day, choosing to show up, to love Jasper fiercely, to trust my own heart. Life had broken me open, but in the cracks I found something stronger, a belief that I could face anything, not because I was fearless, but because I'd learned to walk through fear. It was enough, more than enough, to keep going, to build a home that was truly ours. What's a moment when you trusted your gut and it changed everything? Share it below. I'd love to hear your story. If this resonated, give it a like, maybe subscribe or share it with someone who needs it. Thanks for listening, for being here. Here's to finding our strength, one quiet step at a time.